This is the Math 7 Unit 1 test corrections. In order to complete test corrections, you need to write everything that I write with the red pen on these. You do not have to copy the problem. If you're only writing the solutions, that will not suffice. Everything that's written down with the red pen needs to be written down for test corrections. After each problem, go ahead and pause the video so that you can write what you need to write and then move on. The first problem, the absolute value of negative 2.1 is. So the absolute value would be written like this, negative 2.1. And absolute value means the number's distance from 0. So negative 2.1 is going to be 2.1 from 0. So looking at my possible answers, I know this one and this one are not going to be true because they say negative 2.1 because blah, 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 and 0 because it gives a reason for that. So it's going to be one of these two. So let's read these. Positive 2.1 because the absolute value of a number is the number's distance from 0, and that was exactly what I just said, so it's going to be that one. And 2.1 because the absolute value of a number is always the opposite value of that number. That's not always going to be true, so that's not going to be the answer. So what I want you to write is this part here, and it is the number's distance from 0. And that is what you need to write. I'll erase these because you don't need to write that part. Go ahead and pause and write what you need to write. Number 2, which list of numbers is arranged from least to greatest? So I wrote L to G just to remind me that it's least to greatest. And I'm going to need to look at my options and convert them all to a decimal format in order to compare them. So my three options, it looks like I have 17%, I have 2/9, and I have 0.25. And notice I'm writing them vertically. And I'm doing that because it's easier to compare decimals when they're written vertically. So 17% will become 0.17. All I did there was take that decimal that would be at the end, move it over 2 places. 2/9, I'm going to have to do some long division. So I put 9 into the 2, and I'm going to have to add a decimal and at least 1 0 there. 9 can go into 20 2 times. 2 times 9, I get 18. And 20 minus 18, I get 2. Now, since I have a remainder, I'm going to add another 0 here to drop it down, and I can see right away that I'm going to end up with something repeating because I have 20 up here and 20 here. 9 can go into 20 2 times, so what's going to happen is that 2 is just going to be repeated, and the decimal just kind of floats up there. All right, so I get 0 point, and I'm going to put 2 2s. And I am going to put the symbol so I know it repeats, but I shouldn't need to think about more than 2 digits. So I'm going to put just 2 there. And then 0.25. My decimals are lined up, so now I can compare them. I see in the ones column I have all zeros, so I'm going to move to the tenths. I have 1, 2, 2. I'm looking for my least or my smallest number, and that's going to be this one right here. Then it looks like these are actually already in order. So 0.22, then 0.25, and that would be this one right here. And since you don't need to copy your problems, I'm going to erase this so you know what to write. You write everything in red, pause the video, and then continue when you're ready. Next, we have some scientific notation, and it wants to know where we're comparing these two. So which one is greater? So this first one is in scientific notation. The second one is in a decimal format. So typically I'm going to need to convert one of them so that they're in the same format so I can compare them more easily. But when I look at this problem, I see that This is to 10 to the power of positive 9. And this one over here, I have a very small decimal. I have a decimal point and then lots of zeros here. So this one would be written as, a in scientific notation as 10 to some negative exponent. And I know that because I have a decimal and all these zeros here. This one is a positive exponent. So even without converting them, I know that this one is going to be bigger. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this one. And for this one, I'm just going to have you write positive exponents are bigger than negative. And that is what you need to know to compare those. Go ahead, pause the video, write, and then move on when you're ready. Arrange the rational numbers in order from greatest to least at the bottom. So I'm going to put G to L, greatest to least. So in this one, whenever I'm ordering, I need to convert everything to decimals. And it's nice that these are already vertical, so I don't have to rewrite them so much. So this one, 1/4, is a pretty common fraction. If you don't know this one, then you will need to do the long division, but otherwise it's just 0.25. Next one, I'm lining up my decimal points. I'm going to put 0.4, and I'm going to add a 0 at the end of this just so that I have the same number of decimal places. 4%, if I move the decimal from the end, I move it over 2 places, I get 0.04, okay? And then this one is already in decimal form, but it's a 0.4 repeating. Since this repeats, there would be another 4 here. I'm just going to write that other 4 just so they all match up as far as the number of places. So now I need to put them in order. I'm going greatest to least, so I'm looking for my biggest one to start out. So I have all zeros in this column, and then I have 2, 4, 0, and 4 again. So it's between these two. I'm going to move over and look at, I have 0 or 4. So the biggest one is going to be this one here at the bottom. I'm going to put a number 1 by it. And my next one will be the other one that had a 4 in the 10th place. Now I'm looking at my tenths again. I've already got these. I can cross them out. Then I'm looking at my 10th column again. I have either a 2 or a 0. The 2 is bigger than the 0, so it's going to come next. And then this one will be last. Go ahead and write what I have written here. Since you didn't write the problem, you're not going to underline here. And pause the video. Continue when you're ready. Next, which of the following is true? So I'm going to have to evaluate each of these and see which one is going to be true. 10 minus 14, that's going to be the same as if I did 10 plus a negative 14 is another way I can look at it. Okay, when I have different signs, I subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So 14 minus 10 is going to be 4. And the 14 is bigger, so that would be negative 4. That wasn't the answer that I got here, so that's not correct. Negative 10 plus 14 is equal to positive 4. Let's see what this equals. So my signs are different, and I'm adding, so I'm going to subtract. 14 minus 10 is 4, and I keep the sign of the larger number, which is positive. So it looks like this is going to be my answer, but I'm going to work out the others just to double check. Negative 14 divided by 10 equals, and this would be negative 1.4, because when you divide by tens, you can just move a decimal over, which gives you 1.4. But because the signs are different, I get a negative number. So that's not right because the answer here is positive. Last one, 14 times negative 10. So when we're multiplying or dividing by tens, we're really just moving a decimal point, but if I'm multiplying, I'm making it bigger. So this would be 140, but because my signs are different, I get a negative number. So when you're multiplying and dividing, same signs, you get a positive number, different signs, you get a negative number. So that is not my answer either. Go ahead and just write this work here. I'll erase these since you're not copying the problem. Pause the video and continue when you're ready. Number 6, arrange the temperatures in order from warmest to coldest. So I'm going warmest to coldest. Another way I can think of it is greatest to least, so biggest number to least. Negative numbers can get a little bit confusing, but a larger digit in a negative number just means it is more negative, okay? So that means that my negative 24 is actually my smallest number, okay? And we're trying to go from greatest to least. So what I need to actually start with, since these are all negative, my negative 2 is actually going to be my greatest number because it's the least negative, okay? This is an important thought process to go through when you're dealing with lots of negative numbers, okay? So this is going to be my greatest, then I'm going to go up from there. It's going to be the negative 4, then my negative 11, and my negative 24. This one might also be helpful to just draw a number line. If I have, and they're all negative, so I'm going to put 0 over here. So you'll have negative 1 here, and I might not even, I don't necessarily need to even fill them all in, but just to kind of give you a visual on it, negative 24 would be way down here, which means the others are fitting somewhere in between. So I can kind of go, okay, well, negative, what's going to come next in this number line? Negative 2 would be in there. Negative 4 is going to head out this way. Negative 11 is going to be somewhere here. So a number line might help you to just visually be able to see where they fit on this number line and help you to figure out the numbers. All right, go ahead and pause, write down what you need, and move on when you're ready. Which number is the square root of 400? This one's going to be 20. The square root of 400 equals 20. If you didn't have that memorized, or if you're unsure, you may want to just test out a number to make sure that you have the right one. So 20 times 20, okay, I get a placeholder there at the end, and then 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 2 is 4, I get 400. So if you don't know these for sure, even if you do think you know them for sure, it's probably a good idea to test it using the longer multiplication. All right, pause the video, write what you need, and then continue when you're ready. Okay, number 8. What is 0.0009034 in scientific notation? So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this number and I'm going to just kind of scan until I hit a number that's not a 0, and then I'm going to write everything after it. 9034. Okay, my decimal point always goes after that first number, so it's going to go there. And then I'm going to go times 10, and there's going to be some power up here. Now, if I see big decimals like this, that tells me we're talking about a negative exponent. So I'm going to put that negative sign there. Now I just need to figure out how many times did I move my decimal point. And I'm going to have you write the original number here, 0009034. And I moved it from here to here, right? I can see when I rewrote this, I scanned through the zeros until right when I hit the first non-zero number. And those were the numbers I wrote, and I always put the decimal after that first number. And so essentially, what I'm asking myself here is how many times did I move this decimal place over? I went 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how I decide on that number. Okay? So go ahead and write those. Pause your video, continue when you're ready. Next one, put these in descending order. Okay, so I'm going least to greatest. That's what descending means. Oh wait, descending. Nope, told you wrong. Descending, like a plane. It's starting up high, going down low. I like to always translate that into least to greatest or greatest to least. That means greatest to least. That way, once I start working on it, I'm always working in the same kind of language that I'm used to. Okay, there are a lot of different ways to say greatest to least or least to greatest, so I just always translate it that way. So if I'm going greatest to least, I can see I've got a negative number and then the rest are positive. So I do need to change everything to a decimal, but one thing that I always know is that negative numbers are less than positive numbers. So this one right here, this negative number, I know is going to come last because I'm going greatest to least. So it's going to be my smallest. And I'm just not even going to bother to put in the effort to translate this to a decimal because I know it's going to be my smallest. So that's just a lot of extra work, right? Let's not do it. The others, I may or may not need to translate them, okay? So if I'm looking at this, I have a fraction, I have a mixed number, and I have a decimal that doesn't have anything in the ones place. So these two essentially are fraction decimals. They don't have anything, they don't have any whole numbers. There's nothing in the ones place or the tens place, nothing beyond that decimal point there. So they are just automatically going to be smaller than this mixed number right here. So without even changing any of these into the decimals, I know that 19 and 21/24 is going to be my number one. It's going to be my biggest because it's the only one that has a whole positive number in it. So there you go. After that, I've got these two are going to be bigger than my negative, but they're not in the same format. I know both of them are going to be some kind of decimal, which makes them smaller than my first one, but I don't know what that decimal is for this fraction. They're not in the same form. So I'm going to need to translate this one first before I do anything else. So how many times can 8 go into 1? I'm going to turn this into a decimal with some zeros after it so that I can divide. So 8 can go into 10 one time. 1 times 8. I get 8. 10 minus 8, I get a 2. So I can drop more zeros down. So I can keep adding zeros to this as long as I need to. I'm going to drop that one down. 8 can go into 20 2 times. And then 2 times 8 is 16. And I'm going to kind of just hold there for a little bit, and I'm going to put this as 0.12, and I may need to continue later, but usually 2 decimal places will be enough. And then this one I have 0.825, and if I line up those decimals, I can see right now that I have enough decimal places to decide which one is bigger. So this one in the 10th place has a 1, this one has an 8. So this is going to be my bigger one. And then next will be this one. And then last, I already decided was going to be my negative number. And there you go. Pause, right? Move on when you're ready.